Welcome back to First Light, the podcast where we explore personal and professional transformation with leaders who challenge the status quo. I'm your host, Chris Keller, and today's guest is a powerhouse in the world of marketing, Celi. Chad is the founder of Reset Strategies, a marketing firm dedicated to helping businesses grow without relying on traditional advertising. His work has been featured in Fast Company, Entrepreneur Inc., and even the Wall Street Journal. He's been on major news networks, interviewed celebrities like Tom Cruise, and developed a unique reset approach to marketing. Today, we're going to dive into how business can rethink their approach to marketing, what it means to reset your strategy, and how personal transformation plays a role in professional success. Chad, welcome to First Light. Chad, I want to thank you for being on First Light today and sharing your story with our listeners. So for those who may not know you, I know you've had an interesting personal journey from interviewing the likes of Tom Cruise. He was, I think, is from Kentucky, a little bit more famous than me, to be on the Today Show. So can you talk about how those experiences have shaped your career and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Sure. Well, I don't know if we want to spend 3 hours on my history, but I would say that I actually started in the entertainment industry. I was doing world premieres for movies and interviewed Tom Cruise and George Clooney and Justin Timberlake and a bunch of fun people on the red carpet. But someone I respected very much in an ad agency said, you should pursue business and marketing because you just light up when you start talking about business ideas. And, ultimately, I fell in love, right? I fell in love with marketing, and I ended up taking a very unpopular business path, which was I didn't pick one niche. I didn't pick one industry to focus on. So I've worked in over 119 different industries, and I've had my teeth kicked in many, many times. There was a lot of learning curves, but it created, I would say, a skill set. Might be rare. I don't know. Maybe it's just lucky, but this concept of transferability, the ability to take a great idea, a successful idea, a marketing concept, a sales strategy from one industry and take it into another industry. So, if it's just between us and there's no recording devices, I try to take as much credit as possible. But publicly, obviously, a lot of times I'm just taking other successful ideas from other industries and tweaking them a little bit there. So I founded a marketing firm, and I worked in many industries, and I sold that about 3 years ago. And since then, I've just been working exclusively with injury lawyers.
Okay. Well, let's talk about what you learned in those other industries, how you've now kind of brought that to the world of personal injury and working with personal injury lawyers.
Well, I guess what I had learned, one of the skill sets was asking better questions. And that probably sounds very simplistic, but every time you go to a new industry, you start to organically say, well, how did we do this? Or how do we do it over here? Or how did that campaign get so successful? So we just started asking a lot of questions, and questions I think are so underrated. So just to throw, if you're listening to this, just to throw a few out there as far as what I mean, even asking the questions, what do other industries do? Or how do other industries do this? Or how is what they're doing different from what we're doing? How is what they're doing similar to what we're doing? You can ask staff questions. You can ask your staff, what should we be testing? How could we make things better? You could ask your vendors, what should we be testing? What should we be trying? What aren't we paying attention to? You can even ask the question, what questions should we be asking? I don't know. So I love questions because it gets the creativity and the thinking different. I don't know, this is a little bit of a tangent, but a lot of times when people are talking about innovation and creativity, people will talk about like the fear of failure, right? Like, why aren't people more creative? Is fear of failure and this and that. There is an element to that, I would say, Chris, but I don't think people are really that worried about not having food to eat or paying their mortgage. They may not even actually be worried about losing their job. I would say it's protecting their ego. When you do something that's creative or innovative, there's always a chance that it fails, somebody doesn't like it, someone you work with reprimands you, or it doesn't work out, and there's like your social standing can go down. And again, I know that sounds funny, like, oh, people aren't worried about their social standing. Yes, actually, they are. So if you can get over some of the ego blows, that's a big part of it.
Well, there's so much to unpack there. I don't even know where to start now with everything you brought up. But working with let's start with personal injury law firms, because I know as lawyers, at least I thought, I'm a law firm owner. That's so much different than running any other business, any other service business. For some reason, we think we're different. We provide a service. It just happens to be legal services, but we pretend to be different. And so really changing that mindset in that you're somehow different than other service industries, but really in all businesses, right? In any kind of service industry. So talk about the kind of mindset that you have to have when you're in a service industry and you're trying to differentiate yourself in the crowd, where you're trying to stand out. You kind of talked about trying different strategies. Talk about really, especially South Florida saturated market, other markets as well, where standing out, kind of bringing down that ego and trying these different marketing strategies really is important.
Yeah, so I would say when it comes to, we'll just talk about the injury law firms and the legal space for a moment, and the concept of differentiating and standing out. There's a lot of conversations around that topic. And again, I've got maybe some unpopular beliefs. It's very easy to sit around the boardroom table and come up with weak reasons why we're different. It's like we're talking about our mission statement and how we really care about your case. And the reality is, it's like the most important opinion in the room isn't in the room. It's the market, it's the client, it's the customer, right? So us just sitting around drinking our own Kool-Aid and saying, oh, we're different because we really care and no one else is saying that. Well, it's really not doing justice to the law firm or the client base. So I would say no matter what it is, there's an element of respect for the customer and the market and the client. So testing something, if you think something sounds different, it could be tested and tried. So that's one thing. The other thing is you want to know your space. You want to stand out. Okay, so I always use the example of, if you offered every new injured client a free toothbrush and nobody else was offering free toothbrushes, you would be differentiated, right? Okay, good for you, right? But the problem is, nobody cares about toothbrushes for $1.99 when it's a big decision. So there's a balance between not only differentiating, but differentiating on something that actually matters to the marketplace, right? That's part of the challenge. Okay, yeah, you can pick using purple or using a different font, all these different types of things you could do, but it's trying to talk to the market in a way that they think that you're different. And just replacing this word for a moment, you're a better choice than the next person or the next few people they're considering. So that's part of it too. Even if you're not that different, how do you sound or look better than the other two choices that they're considering? And that may not be as hard as you think, because a lot of people look and sound the same or don't put that much effort into it. So I don't know if I answered your question there.
No, absolutely. And I think it applies to all businesses and not just law firms. I think anywhere to stand out. But let's talk one thing about, the difference between marketing a business and personal branding and personal marketing. And let's talk about, you've seen the game change a lot, especially with the advent of social media, and now you have AI coming into the market. So talk about how you've really seen this marketing evolve over the years, how digital transformation and now AI-driven trends have really changed the marketing.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what I love about the topic and marketing in general. It does always change to a degree, and there's always new exciting things happening or new approaches. Your point about personal branding, that has been one thing that's, I think, been a big shift. You'll notice that people like to follow people. more than businesses, right? More people follow Elon Musk by a long shot than they do following, Tesla or SpaceX, right? Even with Tim Cook from Apple, right? So people like following people and personalities and authentic people rather than companies and corporations. It's even like with reviews. Nobody cares about giving a review to a law firm. They're doing it because of a personal feeling or an obligation or an experience with a person. So there's an opportunity there to, be a persona, be an authentic person, and people can be drawn to you as an individual, putting yourself out there. So, and especially with the kind of the advent of social media, it's incredible. You can spend $1 million on television and generally know how many people you're going to reach. Okay. But it's possible that you spend a fraction of that on social media, like you as a person, and you potentially could reach more than $1 million spent on television. Like that's possible today. Just like the variability of how many people you could reach is incredible. You're reminded of, there was I can't think of the guy's name. It was a redhead guy who had this incredible song maybe last year about south of Richmond or something. Someone, he was kind of writing this song about the hardships of inflation and working, and the dollar isn't worth a lot anymore. And a friend of his recorded him playing this like in the woods or in the backyard. And that song went to number 1 on the Billboard charts. Has never before happened in history, right? So just like the incredible opportunity of reaching a lot of people with a personal story or a personal brand. So, a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, let's talk about how much mindset really goes into that, because I think for me, the biggest part of this journey has been transforming myself personally before I can transform myself professionally. So let's talk about that personal transformation that kind of takes place that you've seen over the years, because we do see these, especially in the personal injury world, these guys that take on personas. I know Daryl Isaac's a big attorney in Kentucky that takes on the persona of the hammer, and you have some of these kind of things. So talk about the kind of personal mindset that has to change in order to really transform yourself professionally.
Well, I would say one of the important ingredients, and I'll use Daryl as an example, one of the important ingredients is the willingness to put yourself out there despite what people are going to say about you, especially your peers. I can guarantee you, any injury law firm, if you go to board meetings or you go to staff meetings and they're talking about some cheesy ad or no one's ever tried this before, or this is, really in your face, whatever it is, if it's a big idea that no one else is doing, if you go around the room long enough, you're going to find someone that says it's a bad idea or a very good, compelling reason why not to do it. Daryl has a personality that he's very willing to try new things and put himself out there. And yes, of course, there's probably some other attorneys that frown upon that or don't like his approach. I could never do that because that's not me. So one ingredient is, being willing to put yourself out there, and the realization that probably not as many people care or are thinking about you or what you're doing as you think, right? I mean, overall. And the other is, I would say, and I mentioned this to you in a different conversation, the concept of type 1 and type 2 decisions, right? So a type 1 decision is something that's very temporary. It's something that you can try or test. And a type 2 decision is semi-permanent or permanent. Like if you're opening up a new location or you're investing $2 million, something that it's very difficult to reverse. So when you're thinking about putting yourself out there in a personal brand, there's a lot you can do that's a type 1 decision. If you don't like it, if you're not comfortable, or if it didn't work out, you could always just change moving forward. It's not like you're getting a tattoo on your face or something very permanent. So, maybe loosen up a little bit.
A lot of people, I think, I know for us, we were building a firm, we relied on a lot of personal referrals and client referrals, and marketing was kind of an afterthought. We wanted to get into marketing, but we weren't quite sure. Fortunately for us, it was ever a situation where we had to do marketing in order to bring in cases. But a lot of people, I think, wait to get into marketing until, I don't want to say it's too late, but I've seen over the years, well, I wish I would have put billboards up. 10 years later, and they're putting billboards up, and kind of to your point, they're saying, well, I would never have a billboard. I'm not one of those attorneys. Or I would never be on TV. I'm not one of those attorneys. I'd never be on social media because I'm not one of those people. And then when business stagnates or becomes a problem, it's like, oh my gosh, we got to do something. Can you talk about how like marketing really should be something that you're always thinking about, always kind of, there is this market share for you, and you really need to be kind of out front. Our firm is looking at trying to be innovators in the market, pushing the envelope, being out front versus, the ones who say, well, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have thought of that. I wish I would have tried that.
Well, you hit on a lot of great topics there. Marketing is a lot like taking a shower. Okay. It's something that's good, but you've got to repeat if you want to continue the benefits, right? You got to do it over and over again. So consistency is definitely a big key here. There's a little bit of the tough love conversation that I want to, being real with people. It's very possible that when you start marketing, your marketing can suck. I mean, that's an element of it too, right? So obviously, the better your marketing, the more results you're going to have, even if you're consistent. But consistency is a big part of things. Culturally, I think, Chris, what's happening is with social media and with, PR and what you see on television, we have been programmed to believe we should have instant success. Like things are just supposed to happen so quickly. So you've got to reprogram your brain to understand a lot of times the overnight successes you hear about took 11 years. You're only hearing about it now, and it's a big story. So the consistency that you're talking about, the persistence to keep it going. One thing I'll share as a tactical approach to this concept of consistency and persistence is the concept of, I think it came from Stephen R. Covey, but it's not my concept, but the concept of lead measures versus lag measures. Have you ever heard of that before? Okay. So just for the audience, a lag measure is the stuff, the carrot. It's what you want to get to. It's like, we want qualified leads or qualified sales, qualified clients, right? So you know what you want the end result to be, okay? That's the lag measure, the thing that comes at the end result. A lead measure is something that you already believe will lead to that. And SEO is a great example. Okay, so you're an injury firm, you've been dabbling in SEO, but you're going to invest more into it. Okay, you're working with an SEO company. Now, you're competing with some major players that are spending tens of thousands of dollars and have been for years. And you're meeting with the SEO company after 6 months. Okay. I mean, John, I don't know what's going on. It's been 6 months. I mean, I was expecting a lot of new clients. So what's going on here? Right. And the lead measure was, you spent 6 months and you went from page 17 to the bottom of page 1. That's part of the lead measure of you're going in the right direction and you will be getting results, but you quit too early because you're only paying attention to the lag measure. So that's one thing I think tactically to think of the consistency, just focus on those lead measures to make sure you're going in the right direction. And I think you'll end up having more success.
One thing I think about a lot is, I think it's so common to all of us, and like you kind of address it, is that we're always kind of chasing that quick fix, right? We try one marketing company, doesn't quite work. Let's go try another one. Oh, they didn't pan out the way I wanted. We'll go jump to another one, or let's get on social media. Well, I'm not really seeing the results there. Let's go try this. And so there's always that kind of chasing that happens. And talk about how important it is to have that, that disciplined mindset to stick with and stick through something, and how you really kind of develop that mindset given the world that we live in.
I don't know. I mean, I might flip the question back to you because I see you're someone that has that personal determination and persistence. I don't know how to really instill that. It might come from how you're raised and brought up. I don't know. I wish there was an easy one-liner or something that I could say to make that part easier, because that really is the hard part. Like the easier part is the first decision where like you write the check or you hire some new vendor or you get started on something. That's the easier part because that's the exciting part. The hard part is the grit. It's like the David Goggins, I don't know if you know David, but like listening to him, it's just like the grit of going farther, going faster, going longer than you think. It's just so unpopular. It's just not very common. I wish I had a magic pill for that. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I was going to say, I think it's something that gets developed because for me, I was in that phase where I was always chasing the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. I didn't know how to stay disciplined. For me, what changed it in a big way was, starting to run, becoming a runner. In order to see those improvements in running, you really have to be consistent. You have to be disciplined. You have to do the hard things. So like this weekend coming up, I have my long run is 20 miles, before my taper for the marathon. And, going out and knowing like, hey, I can do this, and then pushing through and accomplishing it and seeing all the hard work, the 13 weeks it's been leading up to this point to get me to the point to be able to go do this 20-mile run and feel good. And so I think it's having gone through those types of experiences that builds that confidence in you that, hey, if I stick through this, if I follow this plan, if I'm consistent with it, and I'm disciplined about showing up every single day, we're going to get there. And I think that's really what's kind of changed for me over the years or over the last couple of years of this transformation. But still, you have that self-doubt that comes in when it comes to putting yourself out on social media. So even though I'm doing all these things, it's like, well, how do I share that message? How do I get that message out? And how do I get that message out in a good way? And, still working through all that. But let's talk about some of those challenges. Let's talk about a time when you had this great idea that didn't go as planned, and how you kind of got yourself back up, and then share one of those big wins. And you're like, wow, this was a massive win for me, and how you kept moving forward.
Well, yeah, I guess one story that comes to mind, and that I didn't realize this until years later, actually. I was working with this, it's like a ink manufacturing company, right? So, because I've worked in so many different random industries. And, they were coming up on these big conventions, B2B conventions where they, try to network and build sales and relationships. And we had created this idea for almost like a superhero character, Captain Ink, okay? And the whole costume and everything and the shield and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't realize it at the time that the owner of the company was incredibly nervous about doing this, right? But to his credit, he gave it a shot, and they went through it. It ended up being a really big success. But one thing I would say is you run into challenges all the time with innovation and creativity, because especially when it's new, there isn't the exact blueprint of everything that's going to happen or the exact path, because it's a new path. So there's a little bit of acceptance of there are going to be some unknowns. There's going to be challenges that are very difficult to foresee before we start, because there aren't 1,000 other injury firms doing the same thing, or 1,000 other restaurants. So there's a little bit of acceptance of that. And the other ththing that you reminded me of is running into a challenge on a new idea. Let's say, a marketing firm approaches you with, this is going to be great. It's going to be a TV commercial, and we're going to have you do this. Here's the message. Sometimes you've got to be willing to tweak some of the idea a little bit to help it move forward. I mean, I guess that's probably the tough love conversation as well, of it may not be the exact 100% path forward or idea, but there's enough of it to move it forward or to start it. Sometimes just the journey of 1,000 steps begins with the first step. So sometimes that's that, they call it threshold resistance too, even like in retail. It's like the threshold to take that first step, or for a customer to cross that first line and to come into your store or have that first interaction. So getting over that threshold and trying something new.
Yeah, let's talk about like some of your home run ideas, because I know, for example, you've given us some great ideas for things that we can do in our business, and a lot of them were things that were pretty easy, pretty simple things that, you should be doing in your business that don't cost a lot of money, don't cost a lot of time. So talk about some of those easy things, this checkmark things that people can do that are fairly simple, fairly easy. For example, in talking to business owners, I guess, about, if they feel like they're stagnating, if they're feeling like they're unable to compete, if they're not seeing that growth, where can they start, or where should they start?
Well, I'll share. Are you okay if I discuss or share the gratitude book concept as an example?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Something pretty, pretty incredible idea that, moves the needle, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. And, obviously it has to be kind of who you are, and that's really who I am. So it fits with my firm. But yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's a great idea.
So the original high level concept in most businesses I've come across, again, many different industries, is what's called the referral gap. Okay. Many businesses spend money on sales and marketing to generate new relationships. But very few business, like let's say, just to put a number on it, many businesses will happily spend $1,000 to acquire a new relationship. Okay. But the gap becomes, okay, what's your budget to increase referrals? Oh, we just go off the entitlement referral program where we're entitled to the referrals. Because we exist, we're just supposed to get these referrals. So the gap meaning sometimes there's very little to no budget on increasing relationships and generating referrals. So there's the high level concept of if you have a business, whether it's B2C or B2B, you can think about how to feed your referrals just by giving it a little budget. It doesn't need to be a lot, but just think about what you spend for cold traffic and think maybe I could give a little budget to warm traffic, because referred people buy more often, refer more often, and haggle about price less. So they're even more valuable than cold traffic. So tactically, what's an example of this? And you've had an experience with this book concept called the Book of Gratitude. It's sending people, customers and clients, past relationships, referral partners, sending them a book with their name in the title. So it's personalized to them, the Book of Gratitude for Chris Keller, John Jones, Chad Celi, Sarah Smith. Everyone gets their own book with their name on it, and it would be coming from you, a personalized letter on the inside, and it's a collection of gratitude quotes. So it's something that is going to be meaningful. It's personal to them. It's unexpected. There's no logos. This isn't a promotion. It's not like you put a coupon there. It's just, heartfelt, expressing your gratitude for the relationship. And we've seen that be very successful. It goes a long way. We've got people that have, cried when they received it. They share it with friends and family. Some people never throw it away. So it has a lot of shelf life. So that's an example tactically of giving some budget to increasing referrals.
Yeah, we often forget about that. You represent somebody and say, oh, they should automatically refer people to me, but then you find out the next time around they hired someone else, referred someone else because they forgot about you, or you didn't express that. So that, a huge moment for us was just kind of looking at that. Can you talk about kind of what you see the future of marketing being, not just for personal injury law firms or for lawyers, but as we continue to grow in this AI world, where do you see marketing going?
I know there's a lot of talk about AI, and in some ways it is exciting, or it could be scary. May not happen as fast as people think, or it may. There's already a lot of impact. I think there's going to be a lot of value creation in the people that can execute and apply AI in different ways. I don't see it as like AI taking over, thousands of positions overnight. It's more about, okay, these are great tools. How do we really use them? And I think there's an opportunity for creativity and how they're used. There definitely is going to be with video and the not being able to tell the difference between what's real and fake. I definitely see that coming. So that will be interesting how that plays out, of what's real and what's not. That will be interesting. But I always see there's room for innovation and creativity, even when there's something shiny and hot out there. If I ask the question, okay, well, what are they doing with that? Who's using that? And how are they using it? Um, so just going to how to apply things and focus on that.
Well, that's one thing I was going to talk to you about, because I think people often are like, well, I don't want to share my marketing secrets, right? I don't want people to know the secret sauce. And as you know, with me, I'm an open book. I'm happy to share anything that's worked for me. Hasn't worked for me because, again, a lot of times I think what lacks is you have this vision, and I've talked about this. You can have a vision of a project, a vision of whatever it may be, but where things fall apart is execution. And so really talk about how that applies in marketing, where you can have a great vision, but if there's no execution, no follow through, how that really can derail things in a big way.
That's such a great topic. And you're also a great example of this too. I think there was that Harvard business study that said 93%, I don't know the exact percentage, but 93% of businesses fail because of lack of execution, right? There's plenty of great ideas out there. But it really does come down to the execution. That's a big topic. And surrounding yourself with people that have a shared vision and are willing to get the work done. I would say one thing that immediately comes up for me when it comes to execution is watching behavior and not listening, right? So watching rather than listening, okay? Like whether it's with your vendors, with employees, with the market, right? You can read someone's resume, right? But you've got to watch how they behave. You can hear a presentation from a vendor, but you have to watch what they do, right? Same with employees. As it begins, so it ends. So there's a lot to that, especially with the market. Again, you could have a focus group and you can ask people, okay, do you think it's a good price to buy this product for $19.95? Right. And everyone says, oh yeah, no, that's absolutely worth it. That's a steal. What a great value. And then at the end of the focus group say, okay, actually this product is for sale for $19.95. How many people want to buy it? Right. So I've just come to appreciate behavior so much. So when you talk about execution, and especially the team around you, just trying to watch behavior rather than, what people say.
I was going to ask you, kind of, where do you go for your inspiration? What fuels your creativity, your fire to in what you do?
I get so excited when I see people trying new things, pushing boundaries, whether they're successful or not. I just love the big swings, right? This isn't about, we're going to change the font on our website. We're going to rewrite paragraph 17. We're going to change the third variation of the color in our brand guidelines. Like just bigger swings. I just love it. It's super exciting. And that's where sometimes you have the bigger successes, but it takes a lot of courage to be willing to do that.
I always kind of ask people, if you go back to your younger self and give yourself one piece of advice about kind of business and personal growth, and where what kind of look out for on the path, what's that piece of advice that you'd give your younger self or give someone who's starting out into business and somebody starting out into marketing?
To my younger self, I would try to be so much more encouraging to going back to the bigger swings and trying things and worrying about things less. Obviously you worry about some things, and depending on where you are financially, there's always a reality there. But I would want to just be so encouraging. Like, it's not as bad as you think. Go for it. Try it out. Go bigger. Throw out the big idea. So even if you're listening to this, go for it. Try it. Test it out. Take the first step. I think even if it doesn't succeed in a big way, it's like you build the muscle. You're building the muscle of testing and trying, and you never know what 7 different things that you've done will lead up to your biggest, $1 million or $1 billion idea, or the most satisfying thing in your whole life. So more action, less on the couch and more out there.
Yeah, and if you're looking to kind of turn on your marketing, you want to talk to someone to get some big ideas, let the listeners know how they can reach you, Chad, to further this conversation, learn more about you and your marketing company and the services that you provide.
Well, they could reach me at chad@chadgpt.law.
Awesome, Chad. I want to thank you for being here today and sharing your insight on your career in marketing and some amazing things that you've done in marketing.
My pleasure.
Chad, this has been an incredible conversation. Your insights on marketing, business growth, and transformation are invaluable, and I know our listeners will take away some game-changing ideas. To all our listeners, if today's conversation resonated with you, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to reset in their marketing or mindset. And as always, keep shining your light.